Hello everybody and welcome. Colorful trees are really great to paint on location. In this video, I'm going to show you my art process, how I scope a scene, how I make a study. Then at the end of the video, I'll show you how I take it into the studio and make a few tweaks for a finished painting. So stick around till the end. Maybe you're new to painting outdoors or painting plein air, as it's called. And maybe you're asking yourself, why should I even paint on location to begin with? Well, for one thing, what I see outdoors is a different way of experiencing the world than looking at it through the filter of video or photography. Small studies are a really valuable way to take back the color of the day and make a big painting later in the studio, such as this example here. My goal today is to look at some scenes, not overthink it, and head out and make some 15 to 20 minute studies on location, just in the neighborhood around my house. I like to work rather small on location. I find I get more done with small studies. Photographs get very cluttered, they make it hard to focus on what's important, and they lose the impact of that in-person experience. What I do first is focus on the relationship of the colors that I see in the landscape, and I don't worry so much about shape. Here's a quick capture green study that I did using this color dot method. And in this example with watercolor, I created a quick capture of exploring the full darks available with the trees. I did do some shape studies in the top bar of my sketchbook, but I wanted to show you these two examples and how I brought this back later to make a large painting in the studio. So this is why it pays to just create these humble studies and work in a small format, because it will inform your larger paintings and make you a better painter. If you want to paint with me and you're enjoying this content, I have longer lessons available on my online subscription program at lashleyartclass.com. It's free to sign up and you unlock 10 free videos just to try out the program. Subscription students get access to live Zoom sessions, get to visit me in the studio, and learn what it's like to be a professional artist. They get to ask me questions in real time, and we have a lot of fun. There's over 100 videos to watch, and I think you'd really enjoy it. Okay, so what else can we do to simplify this complicated scene? I wouldn't focus on the elegant shape of the trees or some of those beautiful branches. I might focus instead on the dot of strong red, the beautiful yellow, and mostly the overall collection of browns, plus the all-important relationship of the sky color to the overall landscape color. So those would be main components of what I would try to harness for information on location. And in fact, I think that will be my first study. One thing that I do is take off my glasses, and instantly everything is blurry and shapes are simplified. And you can try a similar thing by squinting, but I don't have to do that. I just paint without my glasses. And I also consider, is my subject light? Is my subject dark? I try to position myself so that the trees are either in light, as you could see over here, or mostly in shadow, like you see over in this section. If you get confused with that, you can imagine your scene in black and white. This goes back to value. And even a bright yellow tree can often be darker than the sky behind. That's kind of a trick of the brain, but it does happen. I'm going to be working in oil with a lightweight paint box. All right, let's make a painting. Now let's roll up our sleeves and get busy. I have a warm and cool of each color, and I'm working on a linen panel. The first steps of making this painting, and obviously we're seeing the video in somewhat time-lapse format, is to get the darkest color dot in place with kind of a warm chocolate brown from the transparent oxide and some of the cool red that I have on my palette. Next up is to relate the sky color that we had looked at earlier and had appreciated that not only was that much lighter than the rest of the scene, but I want to realize that the dark has a role, yes, but then the blue can't be too bright. So my next move is going to be to kill some of the intensity of the blue and be watching those shapes as they develop. I don't want one to be more dominant than the other. I want them to still relate together. They also shouldn't be equal in size. I'm going to neutralize some of the blue with a violet cast. I also previously had added tiniest dot of yellow, so making the color a tiny bit murkier actually helps the dark to stand out and is setting the stage for the brightness of the trees. This is also working with the idea of creating the background so that I can have fat loaded brush marks on top of these initial paint blobs. The panel's feeling a little bit dry. I am scruffing it in and you can see the box is wobbling just a bit. Here's the scene just again to realize that we're looking at these really tall trees bisecting into the sky. And the red tree has to play nice with this dark dot that I have. So I am putting in the shagginess of the tree, thinking about this fluff shape, of course, but notice here the red is equal to the brown that I have. So I have to position myself so that I need to probably make the red smaller or increase the dark or make that shape more shaggy somehow. And here all of the dots are kind of separated. I have a white section of panel between all of the dots. So now I get to start linking everything together, and I'm starting to work on the midground. Remember back to when we talked about shape and identified that as a secondary concern. Really, I'm reacting to one color placed next to another color. My objective is at any given point, if I had to stop making this study, would this be useful to take back to the studio? And these colors that I see relating to each other, that's the idea instead of making a perfect painting. It's also really enjoyable to watch the scene evolve and just give yourself the grace of not worrying about how do I draw that tree? How would I make that shape? So shaggy red shape next to the shaggy orange, also paying attention to the ombre look. So the red relates to the top yellow. I'm also not thinking about a focal point or a focal area. Probably it's going to be the red tree, but I want to stay present and open to the possibility that that might change. I do like the feel of the cadence of yellow. I have brighter yellow, and then I'm going to be mixing subtleties within the yellow. So a more orange yellow and a greener yellow. Same thing with the red. The red can be warmer, the red can be slightly darker. And here I kind of have a brick red for the base of the tree. I'm continuing to add some more of the trunks that are coming out into the background, bisecting the sky. And then the ground plane of the fallen leaves is kind of that ochre color, which I do have that as a convenience color on the far left area of the palette. But that is not yellow ochre. That's a premix color made by Vasari, which is called Adobe. And you can see I have found ways to mix that color. But sometimes when you head out into the field and you're after this quick capture, if you know that most of the scene is going to be gold foliage, it's pretty handy to have a premix color so that it's ready to go. I've inserted the scene itself into the video at intervals, but I also like the blurry soft focus look off to the left. And that is often how I will paint a painting with my glasses off, like you saw before. Here I'm starting to look a little bit more at the intersection of the leaves to that chunk of the sky. I don't want the sky to be too dominant. Sky top left and gold tree on the right, they're a bit equal at this point, and my plan is to cover over that leftover gap on the left side. Even though it looks like some more reality is creeping into the scene, I really have to stress that by relating one shaggy blob next to another shaggy blob is the way to go when developing this type of scene. Notice too how I have a kind of dashed line for the trunk of the tree. In the inserted picture, the tree is more of a solid shape, so I'll usually break up some type of dominant line for the tree trunk. And here I've decided, as the scene evolved, that trunk was catching more and more light. So I decided to add a light shape. I'll often do that as well on location, is look for, if for example, if the tree trunk is all the way dark, I might try to shift it just a bit for the sake of variety. It's good to try to capture some of the variety. Earlier, when I was trying to simplify things for everybody and give you some ideas for ways to interpret this landscape and reduce detail, I was saying classify your object as light or dark. But as the study develops, I do start looking for some of the nuances and ways to kind of edge out of that. So I guess I'm breaking my own rule, but I get a lot of questions about edge control. And here with this close-up on the red tree, there's another chance to kind of break up that edge. So after I do the color dots, I'm thinking about shaggy shape, amoeba blob, breaking out the edge. So I'm kind of teasing that out with little flickering dots. Pokey dots gets kind of a softer look. Whether it's the crispy version of the photo or the soft focus version of the photo, they both have a softness because of the fluffiness of the leaves. And now I'm starting to think about sky holes. The vignette to the left shows a really nice job of what that soft focus would look like, and the tree holes shouldn't be too sharp. Again, still thinking of color dots predominantly and not so much individual drawing of shape. Notice there's no fancy lines of branches or individual things like that. So mostly a collection of polka dots and shaggy shapes. I do like the channel of the sky going down. I felt like that was a good kind of open area to have a foreground and then a background component to the study. The nature of the diversity of the leaves in the scene meant that I had to kind of control some of the caramel tones as the painting developed. I remember that started to be a problem where it started to slide a little bit into the all brown murky zone, and I tried to save some of the brights, some of the red of the tree and some of the gold top notes until kind of the last moment. In addition to the larger tree trunk to the right, I did like the tiny skinny tree, and I thought that would, we're not supposed to be looking at shape necessarily, but this kind of thin moment of a tiny tree versus the big giant trees, I kind of liked where the study started to head in that direction. And really spending time with the scene, that started to become more and more important. I just was drawn to that big and small aspect that was happening as the light unfolded and I experienced the scene. I did spend only about 20 minutes on making this painting, and I feel that I learned about the nuance of the color. Even though it is very strong color, it's a vivid fall color day with crisp delineation of leaves and light and then leaves and shadow and flickering tones. You can even see that there's sunlight now bouncing on my panel. I noticed that when I was looking at things in person, there just was a lot more subtlety. We're putting on the last touches in the field, and next up you'll see how I brought it into the studio and made a few adjustments. Well, here's the final painting after retouching it a bit. I brought it back out into the scene to double check everything, and yeah, I had a lot of fun working on this. Well, thanks for joining me today to make our studies and get excited about the color that we see in the landscape.